I'm Eva Pilgrim. Thanks for streaming with us. The first week of testimony in the high-profile sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy trial against Sean Diddy Combs coming to a close. After 4 days on the stand, Cassie Ventura, Diddy's ex, and the woman whose civil lawsuit really cracked open this case, wrapping up her testimony. Earlier in the day, attorneys getting heated over completing her questioning today. She's 8.5 months pregnant and on the verge of going into labor. Prosecutors claiming the defense dragging it out, trying to force a mistrial. The testimony, again, graphic. Ventura's husband, Alex Fine, at one point walking out of court as his wife was peppered with questions about allegedly being raped. Also today, Dawn Richard spotted entering court, the former member of Diddy's girl group, Danity Kane, who prosecutor...
She did, Eva, and she had kept her composure for most of her 4 days on the witness stand under really uncomfortable cross-examination and testimony generally, the most intimate, graphic, demeaning things that you...
The federal trial of Sean Diddy Combs. And we're specifically focusing on the testimony from his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. It's been extensive.
Yeah, we're working off a Fox News report here, and it covers all 4 days that she was on the stand. So it gives you a pretty solid window into what's being alleged and, you know, the legal angles being played out.
Exactly. It's a chance for us and for you listening to get past maybe the headlines and really dig into the substance. What was actually said? Right. How's the defense countering? What are the specific legal points? So let's start with Cassie Ventura's testimony itself. 4 days. That's a long time.
It really is. It suggests a very detailed account. And the report notes she was quite emotional at times.
Understandably, given the nature of the allegation.
Absolutely. The core claims, as reported, are physical abuse and being forced into participating in these things called freak-offs.
Which involved having sex with a male escort while Combs allegedly watched.
That's the allegation, yes. It's pretty graphic stuff.
It really is. And the report mentions she started rehab and trauma therapy early 2023.
Yeah, apparently triggered by horrible flashbacks she experienced on a music video set. Yeah. It sort of underscores the potential lasting impact, you know?
Definitely suggests deep trauma, if that's the case. There was also mention of a text message exchange. Something about Bruce Willis.
Ah, yes. Apparently she texted Combs comparing her situation, unfavorably, to how Bruce Willis treated his exes after they split, saying she felt she didn't get that same, sympathy or support from Combs. It's quite a raw, emotional text, as described.
Yeah, give you a glimpse into her feelings about the dynamic, I suppose. Okay, so that's her side. Now, the defense. During cross-examination, what was their main goal?
Well, the classic defense strategy, really. The lawyer aimed to highlight parts of the relationship that might seem more consensual, to challenge that narrative of constant coercion.
And did they get anywhere with that? The report mentioned she admitted something.
It says she admitted to willingly participating in some of the freak-offs.
Right.
Which, the defense would absolutely seize on to suggest maybe it wasn't always forced, to create that element of doubt for the jury.
Right, planting seeds of doubt. And they also brought up text messages, didn't they, for more recently, like 2019, 2020.
They did. And these texts, they paint a different picture. Combs checking in on her, congratulating her on her pregnancy.
With your daughter, Frankie, yeah.
Right, calling her his best friend, offering support. It's a stark contrast.
And did she reply in kind?
Apparently so. The report mentions her saying she missed him, sending love to his family, stuff like that.
So it definitely complicates the timeline and the nature of their relationship during that specific period. It's not black and white.
Not at all. Which is likely exactly what the defense wants the jury to see.
Okay, so that's Cassie, and the defense is back and forth. But there was other testimony too, right? Dawn Richard from Danity Kane.
Yes, she testified as well. She spoke about witnessing an alleged assault way back in 2009.
So bringing in an alleged past incident, what did she say she saw?
She described seeing Cassie being attacked. That's the word used in the report. Yeah. So potential corroboration, even if it's from years ago, an outside perspective.
And what about Diddy's reaction, according to Richard?
This is quite striking. Yeah. Richard testified that Combs told her the incident was just passion.
Passion.
Yeah. And that it's normal in relationships, that Cassie was fine and basically, don't talk about it.
Trying to normalize it, perhaps?
Yeah.
Or dismiss her concerns?
It could be read that way. Yeah. And then there was something even more serious. Richard claimed Combs made a comment about people going missing where he's from.
Going missing?
Yes. And Richard apparently interpreted that as a death threat.
That's incredibly serious. A very chilling allegation to add to the mix.
Definitely raises the stakes.
Okay, let's shift to another specific incident mentioned. The Intercontinental Hotel in 2016, there's a settlement involved here.
Yes, the report states Cassie is expected to get a $10 million settlement related to an assault alleged to have happened there.
Now, a settlement isn't proof in the criminal trial, but $10 million. That's a significant amount. It suggests something happened.
It certainly adds weight to her claims about that specific event, yeah. The allegation is that another freak-off on March 5th, 2016 turned violent.
How so?
Combs allegedly gave her a black eye when she tried to leave the hotel room.
And this is the incident where there's surveillance footage.
That's right. Hotel surveillance footage apparently shown in court that depicts Combs dragging Cassie down a hallway.
Wow. Seeing that must be incredibly impactful for a jury. Visual evidence is powerful.
Hugely powerful. And there was testimony from a former security guard, too, Israel Flores.
What did he add?
He testified that he tried to call the police afterwards, but Cassie asked him not to.
Which could be interpreted in different ways, I suppose. Fear, maybe, or something else.
Exactly. And related to these alleged freak-offs, Cassie also testified about drug use, didn't she?
Yeah, that was another disturbing detail. Using ketamine and cocaine, she said, specifically to dissociate, to kind of check out mentally during these encounters.
Right. And she mentioned they could last for days sometimes, which just sounds grueling and traumatic.
It really paints a picture of trying to cope with something extreme, and her reason for testifying now.
She reportedly said she just couldn't carry the guilt and shame anymore, that she felt she had to do what was right.
That's a powerful motivation to state in court. It aims right for credibility, doesn't it?
It does. It frames her testimony as a necessary act, not one of vengeance, perhaps.
Okay, let's bring in some legal perspective. The Vox report quoted a criminal defense attorney, Phil Harvey. What was his take on all this?
Well, he called Cassie the prosecution's star witness, which seems undeniable at this point.
Makes sense.
His analysis was pretty much what we've been discussing. The prosecution is trying hard to paint Combs negatively, make the jury dislike him.
While the defense is hammering on any hint of consent or a normal relationship.
Exactly. But Harvey made a really critical point. The case isn't necessarily as clear-cut as just, do you believe Cassie or not?
Because of the specific charges, right? This isn't just an assault trial.
Precisely. It's crucial for everyone, especially the jury, to remember the specific federal charges. Can you list those again?
Yeah, racketeering, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Right. Those are very specific federal crimes with specific legal elements that need to be proven.
But the jury isn't deciding if he committed assault generally or if he's a bad person morally. They're deciding only if the evidence proves those specific federal charges beyond a reasonable doubt.
And that's the core legal question. And Harvey pointed out the risk for the government, for the prosecution.
What's the risk?
If they spend all their time making Combs look bad, but don't specifically tie the evidence directly to proving racketeering or sex trafficking or the transportation charge,
They could lose, even if the jury believes some bad things happened.
it's possible. The evidence has to fit the specific crimes charged. Character assassination alone isn't supposed to be enough in a federal trial like this.
That's a really important distinction.
Right.
Okay, just a bit more context. The trial is expected to last. How long?
About 8 weeks, according to the report, so still a long way to go.
And Combs has been detained since his arrest back in September 2024, after those raids.
Yes, he's been in jail throughout this preliminary period and now during the trial.
Okay, so 8 weeks, serious federal charges, defendant in custody. It underlines the gravity of the whole situation.
Absolutely, it's high stakes all around.
So wrapping up this deep dive, the central conflict really seems clear, doesn't it? You have Cassie Ventura's very detailed emotional testimony alleging serious abuse and coercion.
Compelling, disturbing allegations.
And then you have the defense trying to counter that, pointing to moments of apparent affection or consent, raising questions about her credibility, and crucially arguing the alleged acts don't meet the high bar for these specific federal charges.
Right. It's that tension between the, let's say, the moral or emotional weight of the testimony and the strict legal requirements of proof for these particular federal crimes.
And thinking about this for you, the listener, it really does show how complex these situations are when they enter a courtroom. How do you translate personal experience and trauma into legal proof?
Yeah, it makes you consider how a story, however powerful, interacts with legal definitions. The law requires specific elements to be proven for specific charges like racketeering or sex trafficking. It's not just about believing someone's account of bad experiences.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to maybe mull over. In a trial like this, loaded with intense personal narratives and strong emotions, how does that raw human element ultimately weigh against the cold, hard burden of proof required by law? Where does the narrative end and the legal threshold begin?
Something to think about as we continue to watch how this trial unfolds. It's about different kinds of truth, perhaps, and what accountability looks like within our legal system.